Hello everyone, my name is Katie and this is an introduction to my channel about books. So I want to do an introduction and I want to talk a little bit about my reading style, and I also want to review my rating system because I hope to make weekly videos where I share the books I read during the week and also provide a rating for it. So I want everyone to understand how I give out those ratings and what they mean to me. So first, a little bit about myself. My name is Katie, I am 23 years old, and I am an avid reader. I have always been an avid reader, and it's just a big part of who I am. So I split my reading 50-50, so 50% nonfiction and 50% fiction. That's what I mean by 50-50. I sometimes, some weeks lean more heavily into fiction and some weeks lean more heavily into nonfiction. It just really is the mood I'm feeling, but I feel overall for a year it's about a 50-50 split. So some things about my reading style. Typically I read 2 to 3 books at a time. I can read 2 to 3 books at a time because as long as they're separate enough where I'm not reading maybe 2 fantasy books at the same time or 2 books about English history at the same time, I can keep them separated in my mind, which is a pretty handy way to get through more books. So I tend to have a nonfiction and a fiction going at the same time at the minimum, sometimes a second book, either a second nonfiction book or a second fiction book in a different genre. Additionally, I also listen to audiobooks. So I will be listening to one of those when I'm driving around in my car or when I'm going on my daily walk. The next thing to know is I will read any genre and almost any age range. Obviously, I'm an adult, so I tend to gravitate more towards fiction and nonfiction that is written for an adult audience. However, there's plenty of good stuff and things written for teens, young adults, even kids' books can be moderately entertaining at times. I just don't tend to gravitate towards those, but I'm not against it. In terms of genres, and topics in nonfiction, almost anything will interest me. I'll give almost anything a go. I really can't think of a topic in nonfiction that I just would be completely closed off to reading anything about. In fiction, I will say horror is about the only genre that I really have strong feelings against. If I know a book is a horror book, I tend to not want to read it and I will probably pass on it. I scare very easily. Even though I'm an adult woman, I scare very easily. I also don't do well with torture or gore or anything like that. Not my thing at all. So if you recommend a horror book to me, I might give it a try if I'm feeling brave, but I might have to pass on it. So I know there's a lot of talent in that field. I know there's a lot of great authors in that field, but it's just not for me. The next really big feature of my reading is that I do use my public library for all my reading. If I read a book at the public library that I really, really enjoy, I will request it as a gift for Christmas or my birthday so I can add it to my collection. But I actually have a very small personal collection, partly due to the fact that I move a lot, and moving books, if anyone has ever moved books, is really annoying. They're heavy. If you have to move like 7 or 8 boxes of books, that's an arm workout, and I have really weak upper body strength. So I have a very small personal collection. One day I hope to have a whole room in a house that's my personal library, but right now I'm not doing that. I do not purchase books that I want to read. I do fully support public libraries. I think they're amazing. Every time I move to a new place, the first thing I do is get my public library card. You sign up for a free card and you have access to, in my case, millions of books, and I definitely do not live in a large city. So if you have not checked out your public library, I really recommend checking them out. And even if you go to your public library and think, well, this is a really small branch, I don't think I want to do that. They might not have the books that I'm looking for. See if they can place holds from other libraries in your region. They might be able to do that, and you can have access to more books than just the ones in your library. So huge public library user. That does play into my reading habits though, as when I get books every week, I go to the library and I just browse. I browse and see what's interesting to me. I do have a running list of many, many books that I would like to read, many series I'm reading, and those I do progress through. But a lot of my books are just things I pull off the shelf and decide I want to read. So it's almost kind of a little surprise every week which books I'm going to be selecting for reading. So I can't give you like a rundown at the beginning of the month of everything I'm definitely going to be reading because I don't know what I'm going to find when I go to the library. Some things I can say I'm going to be reading. For example, this month I have a couple books in a series that I already have that I would like to read, but I can't tell you what I'm going to find at the library when I go on Sunday to pick up new books. So that does influence what I read and how much I read and what books I'm reading. Finally, as I said before, I am an avid reader, but I do also do other things besides reading. So in 2020, I have already read over 160 books, which is pretty good, even for me. My stretch goal for the year is 250. I'm probably not going to hit it, and I'm not worrying about hitting it. I don't feel pressured to hit that goal. I just read as much as I can when I feel like reading. I do not force myself to read when I'm not feeling it. I also work full time, so 40 hours a week I'm working, and I have other hobbies. So some weeks I just don't read as much or I don't read at all, and that's just me. So hopefully, I should say usually, I do get through a couple books every week. So I don't suspect there to be any real lulls in my reading, but some weeks I just don't read as much, and that's how I choose to do things. Finally, I want to cover my rating system. So I use Goodreads for entering and recording what books I read. I think it's really convenient, just an app on my phone that I can enter the book and enter when I started it and when I finished it, and it just keeps track of it for me. I don't have to worry about entering them on a spreadsheet or anything. So I enter them there, and I use their star system, which is 1 through 5. So that's the rating that I'll give a book. One star I typically do not give out. I'm pretty good at when I select a book, not selecting books that I suspect I'm going to hate. If I am completely turned off by the synopsis on the back or on the inside cover, I'm not going to check it out. I don't read books that I hate, and if I'm reading a book and I'm like, wow, this is terrible, I don't finish it. So I'm not typically in that situation where I need to give a book a 1-star review. 2 stars is typically the lowest I give. It probably means I had some serious problems with the book. I either disagreed strongly with the author. Sometimes I give it out when I don't like the tone an author takes. If it's very preachy, I don't always appreciate that. So I'll give that a 2-star review. But I really don't give out a lot of those either. I don't run into a lot of 2-star books. Again, maybe because I'm better at picking books that I enjoy. 3-star is about the average rating that I give out. That's an average book. No serious problems with it, just not my favorite. If you ask me about it a year from now, I probably won't remember much about it. And sometimes a 3-star book, especially when it comes to nonfiction, doesn't mean it was boring or bad or incorrect or I didn't like it. It just means maybe I thought another book covered this topic better, or I was expecting more out of the book than I got, or it was very simplistic, or it was too complex and I didn't understand it. So it's not a complaint about the book. The book has a purpose, and I'm sure it fulfills that purpose. A lot of it boils down to expectation. I was expecting something different and I didn't get it. So I gave it a 3-star for my own personal reasons. Probably a fantastic book in another setting. 4-star are books that I find very good. I'm probably going to recommend to people. I'm going to talk about, not all the time, but I will mention it. I enjoyed them. I learned something from them. I took something away from them. Or they were just lots of fun to read. So a 4-star is a very good book in my opinion. 5 stars are top, cream of the crop, best book of the year, best books of the year, I should say. I don't hand out 5 stars to every book that I enjoy. If I enjoy a book but I don't think it's top 10 or 20 of the year, or it's not a contender for those, I will give it a 4-star. If I really think it's a solid contender for some of the best literature books, content I read that year, I'll give it a 5-star. So I think out of my 160 books I've read for the year of 2020, I've probably given somewhere between 20 and 30 5-star reviews. Keep in mind too that because I read such a wide variety of genres, if I give a 5-star to a mystery and a 5-star to a sci-fi and then 2 5-stars to fantasy and then a 5-star to a book on history, it's not that they're all the best book of the year and I just can't make up my mind. It's that I can't really compare like a nonfiction book on English history to a mystery novel and tell you which one I prefer because they're different genres. So, and also sometimes there will be multiple that I think are really strong contenders for the best one I've read in a year. And also, you have the thing that might happen where in April I read a really good book, I give it a 5-star, and then something else comes up in the year that I think was better in that genre, but they both get a 5-star because I definitely think they're both strong contenders for the best book I've read of that type in a year. And sometimes things are just such an absolute success that they get a 5-star and I don't care what I've rated anything else that year. So that's just how you know how I'm rating things. Maybe some people rate things lower than I do or they have a different scaling system. I would say 95% of my ratings are between a 3 to 5-star. So if you wonder why I don't rate things 1-star, you would understand why or how I'm scaling things. So maybe a 2-star for one person is a 3-star for me, and that explains how it's shifted up for me. I will also like to throw out there personal opinions. These are all personal opinions. An author got a book published, that is a huge accomplishment. Whether or not the book resonated with me and what I thought about it and how I thought about that book in context of other books I read is really what that rating reflects. It doesn't mean to disagree with the author. It's not intended to be an attack. If I rate a book that you love a 2-star, I'm sure you still have great book tastes. We just might disagree on some of the books. Just have to put that out there. It is a personal opinion. Also, within the rating system, I kind of have a range within each number, especially with those higher numbers, or, well, I should say 3s and 4s. So I have some 4-star books that are maybe on the lower end of a 4-star, and then some 4-star books that are on the upper end of a 4-star, so like a high 4-star, so almost a 5-star, but maybe one little thing I didn't like, one character I didn't like, a scene that I was like, not a fan of, but everything else is spectacular. It's a 4-star, but it might be much, much better than another 4-star that definitely wasn't a 3-star, but not at that quality of that 4-star. So there is a range within these ratings. There are 4-stars that are much better than other 4-stars, but I just use this grouping because a 10-star system starts to feel a little excessive, and I feel like I would just be guessing which number it would be at, and the half-star system Goodreads doesn't allow you to do, which I guess the half-star system kind of is a 10-star system, because you'd have 10 options, I think, if I did that math correctly. So I use the 5-star. The Goodreads app is mostly just for me keeping track of what books I read. The rating system is just for me to remember how I thought about books. Typically, if it's a good book, I don't need that app to remind me how I felt about the book. It's just a little handy help because of the volume that I read. It helps me organize my thoughts and remind me what the titles or authors of certain books were. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about my reading style, and a little bit about my rating system. Hopefully I will be bringing more content and book reviews soon. I hope to be back with more interesting content. Have a great day, everybody.